Good morning and welcome to Unlocking Freedom in Nature and Art. We're so happy to see you and welcome. Greetings, right, Lori?
Greetings anywhere you are, whenever you watch this. We are here happy again. Tammy and I have a wonderful topic to talk about today. We don't have a guest, but I guess you're my guest, Tammy, and I'm your guest.
Yes. Well, and it's actually kind of fun because we don't do this that often anymore
Right.
because we usually are booked out. And it just happened because I had changed stuff because of a fire a couple months ago. So everything kind of got twisted and off, but we do have guests coming back on next week. But I'm excited. This is a topic that was started from our guest being on here that came up, and it was like burning in the back of my mind. Every time I closed my eyes, I was like, who stole your voice? It's
I love
such
that.
an amazing topic.
When we had Teresa and she brought that up while she was being interviewed and she was telling her story as something that really impacted her from our also another dear guest, Patty Kennedy, that really stroked and sparked a conversation. And then we had another guest that brought it up because she was listening in to when Teresa was a guest and she took note. And when she came as a guest, she also mentioned that question, that how insightful it is, who stole your voice. And now we're going to talk about and how to take it back or reclaim it, right, Tammy? So we want to have you think about these if you feel vulnerable enough and open enough to share with us in the comment, who do you think stole your voice? What season of your life? Maybe you were a little kid, you were a teenager, you were an adult. Who stole your voice? If you want to share, go ahead and share it in the comments. But we want to think about this question because it came from this recent podcast guest and it's been lingering because many of us have felt silence, or maybe even we have silenced somebody else. We might not know if somebody will never tell us, but I want you to think about a time that you wanted to speak up, but you held back, or a time words left you feeling smaller. This is why this conversation matters in the day of age we're living right now, Tammy, right? With everything happening.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And and when I first heard the question, when Teresa was talking about how Patty asked her this, I'm sitting there thinking, huh, I never thought of it that way. But it's so true. How many times, even in classrooms, that you raised your hand to answer a question and it might have been wrong, and somebody started laughing or started making fun. A lot of times we don't think about how will we respond to others or you know their effects on us. Sometimes we just let it slide, but later on in life you realize it actually affects you more than you thought.
And just recently, Tammy, in a Sunday school setting in our church congregation, I witnessed a teacher that asked a question. Somebody said an answer, and it said, "No, no, that's not it." And oh my goodness, I was like, oh no, this person is this person ever gonna feel safe again in sharing what she thinks was the answer, even though it was wrong? So see, I talked about communication as somebody pitching and catching, pitching or throwing a ball, which the ball is the message, and then the other person catching. So Tammy, you and I are the messengers today, and our message about who stole your voice is the ball, basically, and our audience is going to be the ones that catch or receive. And we also want to catch too with your comments and questions as you're watching. So it's so important to understand these basic little principles on communication. There's a person that is the sender, there's the ball or message, and then there's the person receiving who is the catcher, if we can thinking of those terms. And we want to know who stole your voice, and then more importantly, we want to talk about how to get it back. But there's three core pillars of our voices or a voice in so there's the power of words. They can heal or they can harm. They can build or they can break. Tammy, like you said, a teacher, somebody that said, mm-mm. And then we felt like broken. We felt like, uh-oh. I wasn't smart enough at that moment, or that was not important, or I wasn't validated. So your stories, your values, your truth deserve to be spoken with thoughtfulness and respect. Because I'm sure you have a lot to add here, Tammy, because we're witnessing a lack of respect nowadays.
Right. Well, and I'm looking at it too, just like what you just said. You have to look at the person who said no. What was their intention, their tone of voice? And we can't play the victim at all. But at the same time, as a teacher, what way or what tone did you say that in? Or did you say, hey, that was a great question? Sometimes we don't think of those words, we reply really quick. So another way to look is know the person. If you don't know that person, don't assume that they're coming from a place of negativity. Assume that they're coming from a place of helpfulness. A lot of times we don't look at a person's values or who they really are. And so we take everything the wrong way. And if you're always looking for the bad in somebody, you're going to always find it. It's kind of, if you're always looking, say you do research on something on the internet, if you want to find something bad about it, somebody has written something bad about it, and which is really, really sad. But we do need to watch our words, and a lot of times it might not have been the teacher, it might have been other classmates that said something that was hurtful. You see it all the time in the cyberbullying, you know. And so we really, really need to be careful about that. I was talking with somebody yesterday about that, about how many suicides there are because of cyberbullying.
Yes. And Tammy, you said it also when we were talking backstage that our dear Patty, when she was a guest, she also talked about tone, tonality, inflection. And one thing is for that teacher, if she didn't get the answer she wanted, for example, in the Sunday school or whatever setting that I explained, they can say, "Oh my goodness, you are so close." But there's
Right.
another answer that I'm looking for that is more optimistic, encouraging, instead of like putting down someone, right? Oh no, that's not what I wanted. Hello. I
Yes.
mean, it's what the person thought you wanted. So as a teacher, you need to evaluate yourself or presenter. Like, am I explaining things correctly? Did I ask that question right? So there, it's so important. And I want to remind you, cruel, insensitive words echo further and last longer than you think.
They
And
do, and it applies to being a parent or a spouse or a friend. A lot of times, if we just automatically shut somebody off and like, no, that's not right, or you don't get it, you don't, sometimes we do have to explain ourselves or ask them why did they think of that answer, right?
right. And we also, that's a perfect segue for the next principle on who stole your voice and what to think about our voices, the power of words, is that we need to think about accountability. Like so, like I said, cruel words echo farther than you think, but then also there you have to be accountable for what you say. That's why you need to think before you speak. Is it true? Is it helpful? Is it important? Is it necessary? And is it kind? That's just like a little acronym for think.
Yeah,
And
and what you said, Lori, I'm gonna interrupt here. I just got a message from a friend. Well, what she posted this on Facebook was how unkind on social media people have been. And
there
they're
you go.
posting people when you're posting a short clip and you don't know what the whole story is. It's kind of like if you go into a conversation or somebody said, "Oh, they said this." you know, and you're like going, well, that's kind of mean, but do you know the whole story? If you don't know the whole story, you're assuming it's one thing when it could be totally opposite. So it's like always find out what that whole story is. Don't assume the worst and don't assume the best. Go and do your research.
Yes. And in this country, in the United States, perhaps you're watching from somewhere else, freedom of speech is so important, and we are so proud of that, and we want to defend it and protect it. But it doesn't mean that it's a license to harm. It is not also an invitation to just say whatever you want without repercussions, inciting horrible things. So it's an invitation instead, or rather, to speak with integrity, people. With integrity. We're witnessing more and more. You can have the most pristine and amazing, impressive resume, but when that person hunting for someone for their company or corporate or to hire you as a coach or whatever sees you on the social media platforms, that speaks louder and more volumes than your one beautiful, well-crafted resume. Because
Oh, it
paper can hold everything and anything, but if they see you in your true colors on social media because you have been blasting there and expressing yourself there, that's weighs heavier than your resume.
well, it's kind of like I was telling my grandkids before was people hire you based on your personality. They don't, when I hired people, it's always on personality. And, it wasn't on the resume because if you were willing to learn, I could train you. So, and that's how I always looked at it. So,
It's true.
but, and then also, even when I go for have clients, anything, I always do my research and look to see what they're like on social media because social media tells you a lot about a person, and that's before I even talk to them because I kind of it's like I can always ask them, why did you post this, because if you're posting negative stuff that tear people up, put sometimes your negative stuff can put fear in people to where they don't even want to talk to you, because they feel that you're being judgmental and you're always looking for something that's wrong.
But so let's say that we did that, like, and I say we because we're all humans and we make mistakes. And then we slipped and we got too emotional and we reacted instead of responding about something. We need to own the words because that means that we're willing to stand by them, right? If it
Right.
was something good and uplifting, or if it's something bad that we really, really mean because we think we know the truth about the topic. So if they cause harm, then we need to own that and then come show up again in the social media platforms and retreat, meaning or say something like, "Hey, I stand correct. I stand corrected. Somebody helped me realize that I didn't know all the facts. I didn't know all the truth, and I apologize. Making up for and owning what you said that was harmful is extremely important."
One of the most important things that I learned when I was at a fashion show in Hawaii, when I actually helped set up the whole fashion show, but it was at, gosh, it was for on my clothing side, fashion stuff. But is when you post, think of it as you're posting on a huge billboard going into every town in the world, or you're posting on the cover of Time magazine. Every one of your posts is going to be seen and it's out there. And if it's not uplifting, why are you posting it? It's like, do you want to hang out with people that are always negative, always tearing others down? If, it's like, I always look at that. I don't like to hang out with negative people. That, it's one thing. And I realize we all have our times when we're stressed or we're dealing with this or that. And it's great to have somebody to talk to about that. But don't always put it out on social media.
Another thing is, Tammy, don't you think that if you would not dare to tell something to someone face to face, what makes you think you can get away with it online or on social media platforms or via text, right? So we need to be so careful. And if we at least have the humanity and some moral integrity and values that say, no, I would never tell this to this person in face to face, so now there's other means to communicate. And then we're feeling that more free to say some things that are hurtful, demeaning, and devalue others. And if we still think that we would not tell someone at their face something in front of them, let's not do it either in the social media platforms.
Or anywhere, because I've always had that philosophy. If I wouldn't say it to that person's face, then why would I say it behind their back? So if you ever hear something saying, "Hey, Tammy said this," confront me about it. Because if I wouldn't
Yeah.
say it to your face, I'm not going to say it. And that other person might have mistook it the wrong way, because sometimes I'm not the best explaining myself, right? I'm not perfect, and it might come out the wrong way. But I have best intentions, I want to uplift, I want to inspire. We want to encourage people, and that's why we're here. We hope that you're inspired. We hope that you're going to find your voice and realize it's okay. There's people out there that are just bullies and meanies, but we're hoping that this will help them see the light, right? To change their ways and realize, oh, maybe what I'm saying isn't hurting the person. I know somebody that posts, and she's doing it to post against her parents to be mean, but what she's not realizing is hurting all of these other friends
Or
because
herself
her
too.
her family has the same values as a lot of these other friends. Yes, they hurt her, but doesn't mean you need to go and destroy everybody else in the path, you know?
Yeah. So, one thing also is that if you prefer to talk to the person face to face, that's the best route. It will stay there behind closed door, private, instead of being exposed in the world. And that's the third part of this pillars of our voices. Number one was the power of our words for harm or heal, build or break, and accountability in speaking, own up to what you say, and then listening to truly hear. Tammy has said it many times. God gave us two ears, one mouth. There's just a clear message right there. We need to speak less and listen or hear more. And that's part of using our voice. Part of using our voice is just being quiet because that is saying so much more. That is saying, I'm paying attention to you. You're important to me. I am patient enough for you to finish your idea or your thought, and then for me to formulate like a response. And it is so important to truly hear. And listening, practicing the skill of listening builds courage, builds trust. And I talk a lot about building those bridges that will connect us and that carry us forward together as collaborators like Tammy and I, or as friends, or as co-workers, or as a client and a coach. Imagine a coach that won't listen. No, coaches need to listen. And like Tammy and I were speaking before we started, Tammy, do you want to tell us about coming from a place of curiosity?
And so anyway, I think we were talking about this about the fire.
No, like coming
Oh,
from not yet, that's coming up soon,
okay.
but about asking questions to
Oh
clarify,
yeah, ask
asking,
questions if you're not sure. So one of the best classes I've ever taken was on listening. All right. And it was a friend had taught it, but it was at our church. But listening takes it takes patience, right? Because we just want to jump in there or we have this story or that story. Anyway, for me, it is. I'm always working on my listening skills. And but in order to really listen well, sometimes you have to, besides be silent, is ask questions. Try to find out, where's this person coming from? What happened in their past that is making them this way, or have this opinion, or they're thinking this. If we don't ask questions, we won't know. Don't just assume.
yep. Yes, because when you come from a place of judgment, on a place where you want to accuse and name calling, we're seeing that a lot lately, recently. We don't want to delve into lots of specifics that are happening, but to a good person that understands, you don't need a lot of words or to know what we're talking about. And what we want you to remember is that you can, when you feel like your voice was stolen, you need to reclaim it and speak up so you can live your passion and purpose, so that you can step into your greatness and help everybody that's helping you. But when we get distracted in our minutia, in things that are totally out of our control, and we don't know the whole truth about that, I want you to listen. That is the adversary or the bad wolf Or the mini, remember the little de devil in the cartoons and the little angel? The little devil telling you, be distracted, just stay in this zone, in this area of stuff that you don't even know what you're talking about, but you're feeling a certain way, you're leaning towards this side. Instead of just letting that go, process it with writing in a journal or just speaking to someone that you feel very safe and you can exchange, and then let that go so that you can continue living your life and
Right.
turn all that passion into something that is really going to add to and contribute to the community and our society.
So, and Lori, I want to add this. I see a lot of people, and you've seen this over years on social media, the grammar police. The people that are making fun of somebody, oh, they couldn't pronounce that word. They couldn't say there's too many ums in their words, speeches, look at the way they stood. They make fun of people. Do you not think that if you're making fun of somebody that's famous or other friends or this person or that person, that you're close to friends, how do you think they feel? Do you think they're going to open up to you? Do you think they're going to be afraid to speak to you?
I
They're
will
going to be
clamp
afraid.
up. I
That
will
right
clamp.
there is stealing somebody else's voice. You may
Yes.
not think you're affecting other people, but you are. So you have to be careful about that. It's like, besides, this always brings up us to me. I was telling Lori, we were talking about this. I'm like, this just reminds me of in the Bible when they talk about, when Jesus said, whoever hasn't sinned, cast the first stone. It's like, how many times have you not pronounced the right word? I know I don't pronounce things correctly all the time, or I forget a word, or I forget this or that, or say something wrong. Nobody is perfect.
Or made a false accusation, and then you're judging somebody else. And then this is where I also say my grandma taught me when you're pointing a finger, accusing, judging, three fingers are pointing back at you. If you see what I'm doing, three fingers are pointing back at you. So we sometimes think that we know better and we have all the information, but then no, there might be so many blind spots on our side. There might be misinformation that we don't know the whole information. And that's why we need to give the benefit of the doubt and not pass those judgments. I love that Sandra is here, Tammy. Melissa is
Awesome.
here. If you have any comments, type them in. Questions, type them in. We would love to hear you. And I want to relate or liken all this, especially with what's happening in the world, to something that happened to Tammy just around her beautiful area and beautiful place in Kokolala,
In
Idaho, and
Idaho here.
she will tell us more. But I want you to pay attention to this story. I want you to pay attention of propaganda, misinformation, judgments, and also most importantly, courage. Because this is the next little section here that we want to encourage you. Remember how to take your voice back. We want to equip you with a call to courage. I want to help you understand that you should not let fear or anger steal your voice and steal your purpose in life. And don't be the one who steals someone else's either. So tell me, what happened recently around your area?
Well, last month in August, a lot of you know this, is we had a huge fire. Somebody was setting fires, and one of them, the fire that was closest was the last one for firefighters to get to. And it happened that night. I had five teenage boys arrive. We'd had dinner. They'd actually driven down to this close to this mountain just 2 hours prior. And they were packed up, ready to go hiking down a trail and camp where the camp. And I get a fire alert. And I'm like, oh, hold on, hold on. You guys can't go until we make sure everything's safe, right? And all of a sudden, it's panic time because they're sending out evacuation. We're getting all these alerts on phones, and friends of ours were being evacuated and stuff. And at first, you're just like going, oh my gosh, it is so scary. It's a kind of a gut wrenching scare, stress. It's different than your normal stress. And
And you see all this in the news about other places,
Oh
but then
yeah,
now it's
oh
hitting
they're
home.
like putting it all over the news and we're getting phone calls from other people and stuff, it's like we're like no, we don't need to evacuate. And so what happened is my husband, he used to work for the hot shot fire crew when he was younger, so he knows about fires. And so he took the boys down so they just calm their fears to see where the fire was and see the smoke. And it was like, okay, we're fine. It's still back there, And I just left the windows open in our house because then I'm really sensitive to smell and stuff. Because then I was like, then if I smell it coming in, then I'll know if it's closer. And we had our phones next to us because if you don't know this, a lot of people don't realize it. They will text you and let the and alerts will go off on your phone if you're even close at all. So, and then the next day, so we got everybody calmed down so people could sleep, right? We got, it's because it was amazing. People are like calling us and saying, you guys need to leave, leave. We're like, no, we don't. You can't even see the smoke from our area. And it's nighttime. We can't see anything. We are fine. And then the next day, the boys had planned out. I'm like, well, you guys came up for hiking. So I think let's go. And so we checked. So first thing we did is went and checked to make sure there wasn't a fire, right? And all the stuff online was kind of confusing anyway, but we made sure that we weren't in any danger before we left. And we left for the day and went hiking because to me, when you get out, you forget about it. And sure enough, about 4 hours into it, we get these two texts. You guys need to be evacuating. We're like, what? So we go up to, and then we couldn't get reception for a bit. So we had to go hike out a little bit because we were up on top of a mountain at a lake, right? And went, and the boys were like, oh, we're packing up because we want to come and help you guys move your stuff out, and stuff. And Daryl, we pull it up and we're like, we're not being evacuated. People misread, because sometimes if you misread that one little word, it changes the whole story. And that's why Lori and I are saying, make sure you read, you understand, because it can cause all kinds. So I ended up hiking back in a mile to tell the boys they could stay, that they didn't need to come out because we couldn't get a reach of them. So yes, I got my exercise that day, right?
Yes. But many other days during that time.
And that was the first time. And then we came back, but it
Hmm.
was like every single day we did is like my husband drove up to where the fire was, even a couple at first, to just to see where it was at, and we always went and checked for smoke. And it was kind of gut wrenching because you could hear, you were happy to hear those helicopters and planes dropping water. But the other times, but at the same time, you weren't because it was like, oh, that fire's close, or if the winds changed, and then people are like, because we got taken out of the ready and we're like, oh, we're free. And then all of a sudden, everybody's in set, right?
So
And you get all these calls like, why aren't you moving out? But at the same time, we got these wonderful calls and texts from friends that were like, hey, if you need us, just let us know and we'll be there to help move you out. And people, it's like there were some people that were like, I can't believe you're not moving out. Well, we had a ready plan. We knew what we were doing. We have three ways out, but it's like all these people. But the thing that there was so much misinformation on site, on the maps and everything for a good week. Because this
so that's
lasted
what
three
I'm gonna
weeks.
ask you, Tammy. So
3 weeks,
what
it was so much misinformation. Nobody knew
what
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 was really going on.
what helped you? Because you were in a state of fear too, right? You were posting, pray for us, this is
Oh, yeah.
horrible. And she, as my friend, was texting me, oh my goodness, Lori, this is terrifying. And like I was saying earlier, Tammy, in the context of you see this in the news, Hawaii or other places in the world, geographically speaking, but you never think it's going to happen to you or so
Right.
close to home, right? So then now is a reality, but still within that reality, you knew there was some misinformation. So what difference did it
Did
make
because
for
if we
you
would have
to?
just listened to the news,
Hmm.
we'd been totally panicked and left and stuff. But it was like, no, we're gonna water our yard, keep everything green. We're gonna be calm. I wanted to remain calm for the kids that were here, and for everybody else too. So we didn't show anything and we checked the fire. But one of the things that I found the best was I went 10 minutes away and went on a hike every
Yeah.
day because that you when you're hiking, it's kind of like my oldest grandson said, when you're hiking, you're focusing on where your feet are going, you're seeing nature just around you, you're not thinking about
Hmm.
all the other stress that's going on, everything that you're not thinking about, the news, the media, or anything else. You're just there. And that's why it's so important to get out when you are stressed. Because if you just sit there and watch the news and watch your phone and all the alerts, oh my gosh, you'll go crazy. You know, the stress is so much, it just makes you sick. And so, but the one thing about it is I was able to help others that were going, because I had some other friends that were going through fires in other places. Now I know what they were going through, and they had to be, I text them and said, hey, I know you're going through this, don't stress, here's some things to do, just because I just gone through it. And so when you're able to help with some encouraging and inspiring words, it helps them as well. And I helped calm other people down because they didn't realize what was going on in those other areas. But I'm like, don't believe everything on the news. It's like sometimes you have to see yourself. And that's what I told. I'm gonna go out your door. Can you see? Can you smell smoke? We were lucky. We didn't smell smoke except for a couple of little times. And I do believe in prayer. I believe it was a miracle. God sent that fire along the lake, and we're between two lakes, so they were able to dump water on it and stuff. But and I appreciate each and every one of you that did pray for me, or sent those good wishes because I believe that's what saved us.
But
But it was a time
yeah,
of stress.
lots of lessons here that I have been able to catch here. So, first of all, the danger was real. Number one, the danger was real. What was not real was the propaganda, is what I'm going to call it,
Yes.
of the area or the fear mongering that can be even paralyzing. Okay, Tammy is a fighter, Tammy is a warrior. So, she was not going to sit there watching and biting her nails or running around like a headless chicken and just say, "Oh, the sky is falling, the world is ending." Her husband Daryl, with his knowledge and skills, was able to do research to find out the truth, the 100% truth. While the fires were real and truth, they were not in that area. Tammy loves nature. She loves to unlock her own freedom and sanity in nature by discovering, experiencing, and then that's how she transformed into a better, happier person. I believe me, I've witnessed it. So she was not going to allow this negativity and the distraction of all the falsehoods and lies and hyperbole to stop her. And then she was able to respectfully disagree with whomever was just telling her, no, 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 you're crazy. Don't do
Well, and
that.
one
Or
of
you
them
have to
was the
evacuate.
actual people that were writing the reports. They were putting roads on that don't exist in our area.
Wow.
So when you're doing that, that adds more confusion. And I wasn't the only one confused. And then they closed off all of a huge areas of the lake and the forest. So we couldn't even go in some areas.
So
It was a different time. And I contacted friends who had been evacuated, but then got let back in and stuff, to see where they were because they were right at the fire line.
So Sandra is saying here, God commands that we forgive others so that we can be forgiven. How do I forgive the one who tried to steal my voice and do what God commands? How do we know that the forgiveness we want to give is real? Do we still have to like that person or want them in our presence? How can we learn to be more courageous every day? This is packed, Sandra. I love it. It's loaded, but
It
you're
is.
amazing. You're amazing, and I think some of us, I want us to think
Here's
together.
here's a
Yes.
quote I just got yesterday because I
Mhm.
was thinking of somebody that forgave some the other day, Kimberly. This quote came up. Forgiveness doesn't excuse their behavior. Forgiveness prevents their behavior from destroying your heart. Which is
Yes.
it's so important, you know. It's like, yeah, well, you forgive. It doesn't mean you forget,
Sandra,
you
I
know.
hope that helps. That's so on point. And I think that liking and loving is different. You probably don't need to like, which entails trust, entails consistent interaction. You don't, because it's okay when that bridge of trust has been broken. If the other person is not willing to work on rebuilding it, you're not going to do the work all by yourself. And even if you've tried, you're tired, and then it's a two-way street. And you don't need to like the person. You need to respect and be there for the person. And it takes a lot of courage, definitely. It takes devotion. It takes spirituality, even asking our God or higher power to help us in
Sometimes,
this process.
yeah, ask
Yes.
God to help you to forgive because sometimes forgiveness is hard, but at the same time, we're told to forgive over and over. I can't remember how many times it is, you know. Basically, forgive and ask God to help you forgive because sometimes some of those things are not easy. And if
Sandra
they're,
saying that, thank you for the quote. It's a great quote. And Sandra, how do we
I'll
know
post it
that?
later, Sandra.
Yeah. How do we know that the forgiveness we want to give is real? You have to, that I think you have to assess yourself, how heavy it is in your chest, how much real estate is taking place in your beautiful head and brain and mind. Is it consuming you? Is it not letting you sleep? Is it not letting you be at peace? Because you know who you are, you know your purpose, and a person that try to silence you, they have, it's not a reflection on who you are. It's more a reflection on how their state of being, their lack of self-esteem, because they probably feel you are a threat to them, right? And there's been beautiful quotes also circulating about thinking that you are going to finish somebody, is going to make that person disappear. No, because the
And some
words, like the positive and the goodness in that person is going to live forever. So they're trying to shut you off and things like that, but no, because you're brighter, you are more radiant, and you shine brighter than them. So
And
go ahead. Sorry,
Sandra,
Tom.
this is one thing I would suggest. Pray for them.
Yeah.
Because pray for them to see what they've done, see what their words, pray for their heart. Because sometimes people don't even realize it, I think. And it's even harder if it's a family or friend that hurts us, you know. But yeah, definitely. I know there's times I've had to ask God to help me to forgive. And usually I try, I forgive, but doesn't mean I forget. I try to, but you don't. And what was her other questions?
Not forgetting doesn't mean you're not forgiving, and is
Right.
there as a point of reference to protect yourself for future with the same
Yes.
person,
The
or
learning.
with other people that show the same red flags, right?
Yes.
So you have to embrace the fact that these things happen also for us to learn and develop that intuition even better, and see, look back and say, hey, I saw all these red flags and I didn't pay attention. From here on, I'm going to pay attention to this person's patterns or this type of personality or person's, red flags. And also to be more empathetic, because you've gone through what you've gone through, suffering and feeling so impotent, like voiceless for so long
Vulnerable.
and vulnerable, that now you're going to say no more. no more. But if you see somebody else under those circumstances, there's something that you can contribute to that person, or encourage that person to be brave, because you can see, sometimes we see better when we see a situation in others than ourselves. And then you learn, you realize, and you encourage and motivate others.
And sometimes
So,
you have to just step back and be silent for a while and let them realize that they hurt you. And then there's times it might be not a family member or a close friend, but somebody else that you just like, I'm not going to hang with you because if that's what you really think about me. But
and very importantly is that it's like wishing that somebody else drinks the poison, and then holding on to these feelings that are super heavy and leave us stagnant. It's just like poison to ourselves, right? Like the
oh,
quote
very true. I
says.
was thinking that
Hmm.
what's funny, Lori, is I was thinking the exact thing is never wish evil or wrong upon anyone.
Yes.
Because I always think, oh, I was like, gosh, I wouldn't want anybody doing that to me,
Yeah.
wishing something harm or something on me, like always wish the best, even for your people
And
you
that is so
love.
good. Sandra is just saying that. She's saying that she prays for this person, but the person's heart still hardened. And she just needs to turn over to God. And that is so true. And that is part of your voice, reclaiming your voice and taking your voice back. Because I promise you, and anyone listening or watching out there, that is what we need to be courageous about. Be courageous about turning that voice back on. La la. Practice even like speaking. Practice speaking in the car by yourself and with your tonality, with a voice that will emanate or irradiate self-confidence, courage, volume, tone. In this cartoon movie, or animated movie, the one character was telling you, complaining that this character mumbles and mumbles and mumbles. And when this character finally summons the courage to tell some truths, they say, I'm not mumbling now, am I? What are you gonna say to me now? Because I summoned the courage to speak up and speak out. And I want you to remember that when voices rise, hopes rises too, and every voice matters, including yours. It's time to let go of that time. I don't want to say wasted, but invested in wondering and second guessing yourself. I want to invite you, Sandra, and anyone watching and listening, to reclaim that voice so that we can become what we need to be in this world, what God designed us to be here in this world, so we can impact and influence others, and healing as we heal ourselves.
And
So
sometimes it takes the courage just to be silent,
that too, that too, like I say, staying
which is
silent
part of
is
our
also saying
voice.
a
It's
lot.
just like, let's hold our voice back for a few minutes, even though you want to go and just like, ugh,
Not
but
stay being quiet is also saying something, is
it
making a
is.
statement. I see here Von Eric Tandok. Welcome, welcome. We forgive to let go of bitterness and move on from negative emotions. But on the other hand, we shouldn't forget, so we can learn from the experience, protect ourselves from future harm, maintain self-respect. I love that. Thanks for reminding us about self-respect, and ensure accountability for the past event. There you go. There you
Love
go.
it.
Wonderful. I love it too. So thank you so much. And time goes by super fast when we're having fun, right, Tammy?
It does.
And we want to end with this. What part of your voice have you set aside that you are ready to reclaim? Because this is not like, oh, you have to take the whole leap right now. No, it's
No.
like a part of it. Is it in your spiritual aspect? Is it with one person in your life that you've been meaning to say something and you haven't yet? Is it with a friend? Is it with a spouse? Is it with a child? Or doesn't matter what it is.
Well,
What part of your voice have you set aside that you're ready to reclaim?
and I was going to say, Lori, you would probably suggest this is write it down, write it in a journal, speak it in a mirror, see how, even record it and say, if you're, make sure it's coming across in the tone you want. And sometimes after you've written it two or three times, you're like, and pray about it. It's like, no, I don't really need to say anything. Or no, this is actually what I should say. Or, or sometimes it comes out, maybe I just need to ask a question. Yeah. There's so many different ways, but we want to want you to take a look at this and start thinking about it. How do you speak to people? What is your tone of voice? And realize you're not perfect. None of us are. And choose wisely those words in your post. Make sure they're inspiring, encouraging others, they're uplifting. Are people wanting to go see all of your posts because they just feel inspired when they see it? And we also want you to check out our website. There is a full article on this. And I got my inspiration for this article, besides Patty and Teresa, it was from Lori too, because we've been talking about this. So be sure you check it out. And we do have some adventures and some other things coming up. And of course, if you have questions, come on. And I know Vaughn, we asked him to be one of our guests here. So he's trying to find some time,
Yes.
but because of his work. So thank you so much. And we'd love to have you back on too, Sandra, sometime.
Yes.
So
Okay, so here it is. I put it in the comments, but I'm gonna say it here for the ones watching right now or in the future. I want you to comment or journal if you feel like you need to be more private and share one word in the chat or in your journal entry about how you'll start using your voice with courage and compassion. I also want you to try to determine, if you haven't realized it yet, what or who stole your voice, because we say who, right? But it could be an event, a circumstance out of your control, distractions. It can be so many things that could potentially have stolen your voice. And nowadays we see a lot of distractions. We see a lot of negativity and lack of purpose and the imposter syndrome, etc. Try to write and identify what is it or who is it that stole your voice, and then comment or share one word that to start using your voice with courage and compassion.
well, and all of this, I'm looking back at behind your screen there, Lori. This is a time to discover,
Love
experience,
it.
and transform. And what we mean by transform is stop playing the victim and get out there and use your voice.
Yes. And we say that we
And
love.
don't blame. You got
Be,
to
be,
forgive, move on. That person that you're hung up about may not even know they did anything to you, and that's okay. Sometimes you just forgive them and move on and stop, because I see this victim mentality so much.
and
So
Pam is saying, congratulations, Pam. If this is a step that's going to make a difference, go for it. She's saying she's going to say her affirmation instead of thinking them silently. She's going to say them more. And Pam, as Patty I know would say, make them so so powerful that you will feel them when you're saying them. You will feel those affirmations. And I'm sure Tammy, Tammy and I, we mean about stepping away from the victimhood. It's not derogative. It's not, because
no,
I have been a victim, right?
I same here
So
many times.
so from victimhood to victory is what we want to encourage
We want
you
you to
to
become
do.
that warrior you are,
Yes.
right?
Yes, absolutely. So like Tammy said, I encourage you all to read that amazing article she got inspired to write, and think about this. And I know this is going to be so much better. Like Tammy said, you're going to transform into a courageous, wonderful person. And Sandra is saying, pursue more peace. Love it. Love it. If this
Yes.
is a takeaway about from this episode, that's beautiful. Pursue more peace and just be happy and joyful, okay? Because we want you to live a life of fulfillment by discovering, experiencing, and transforming in nature or in your mind and in your heart, okay? And you do that better in nature, right, Tammy?
Oh, definitely. It's like when you go and walk, or like Pam, just go step out on her deck, and I know you and Sandra walk sometimes, and Vaughn lives in a beautiful area. It's just get out there, enjoy nature. A lot of times that's a great place just to talk, to experience something new, and it's transforming.
So
And we just want to thank everybody for being here. We appreciate you.
we know it's gonna be great. Step into
Have a
it.
great day,
Bye
everyone. Great
bye.
week.